Hi, good afternoon all. I welcome you all to the 1-hour webinar on Instructional Design, Impact of Technology in L&D. It's good to have you all. I would like to do a quick audio and video check through chat. Please let us know if you can hear me and view the slide deck. Okay, great. I can see some responses and I can see that you can all hear me. I think we are good to go then. As we move forward, I would like to run a few checklist items to help us get the best out of this webinar. I request you all to remain on mute at all times. Only the facilitator would be on unmute. I'll ask questions as soon as you have one. Please put your comments and questions on chat only, and the facilitator shall answer as soon as possible. So today our discussion will revolve around understanding the technological trends in instructional design. Our facilitator for the webinar is Satish Chandrasekharan, who is an expert in instructional design, leadership training, and behavioral training. Can you move to the next slide? Yeah, great. So our facilitator is Satish. He's an expert who comes with an experience in instructional design, leadership training, and behavioral training. Let's move on to see the capability of StrengthScape as an organization before we start the webinar. So we are an organizational development and transformation company headquartered in India, Bangalore. Our offerings include HR certifications, competency mapping, behavioral training, digital learning, executive coaching, image consulting, OD consulting, psychometric assessments, and technical training. To bring the best onto the table, we have partnered with Wiley for everything disk products, Central Test for psychometric assessments, Skillsoft for their off-the-shelf learning content, Ingram Micro for technical training, and more to go. So now diving right into today's webinar, I request Satish to take it forward.
Hello everyone. Am I audible? Okay, that's great. I hope my voice is not breaking up. That's great to see. Right. So I welcome you all for today's session, and it's going to be about roughly 50 minutes of time. We will be spending time on learning the new trends that are in trend today, and some of the tools and techniques that has been followed by many of the companies across the globe, and how technology-based learning can help our organization. It's one of the key focus for today's discussion. And how can we blend different strategies together and make it more relevant for our organization? Is something would be the key aspects of this next 1 hour of discussion. So with that, I welcome you all for this session, and let's just get into this recognizing new trends in instructional design. I would like to ask the participants here, instruction designer, as an instruction designer, what should be our focus? Should we focus on the our design should be trainer-centric or learner-centric? Okay, learner. Great. I see almost all the responses are, learner-centric. Ankush says that it's both. Why? Why do you think it is both, Ankush? Right. I see a lot of responses saying that it's going to be only learner centric. Um, so should Ankush, okay, Ankush is saying that it should be easy for learners to understand and equally easy for trainers to explain. Which makes sense. But as an instruction designer, our primary concern is about the learner. How to enhance the learning experience should be the primary concern for any instructional designer. Although I appreciate this view, which is also true. To some degree, I do agree with trainer-centric approach as well, but predominantly it is learner-centric. So let's get started. Uh, so, what challenges do people face in today's context? If you look at today's job market, it is continuously evolving. What is relevant today is may not be relevant tomorrow. Each day, certain one or the other upgrades are happening in the job market, and things are changing quite fast. So the requirements with respect to the job itself is evolving, which means that the person who is joining today will have to upgrade new set of skills and knowledge. Not only that, the entire expectations of the people is changing so drastically. We want everything faster, cheaper, and quicker. So it's a big challenge that we are all faced with, and it is same true when it comes to learning as an learning as an offer, right? Everybody wants the information to be available all the time. It has to be faster to access. It has to be cheap, and that is what learners are also looking for. So the expectations from the learners are also changing. So this is something new that we are faced with as L&D professionals, and how do we bridge this gap? So that is the big challenge that we are going to dwell into. The other part is learners' attention span is dropping consistently. Do you know what is the average uh, learner's attention span today? Uh, you can just, okay, 30 minutes max, 10 minutes, all right, more, okay. Nitin says 15, 45 minutes. Santosh is very optimistic, all right. Someone, Satish, says 10 minutes. Great. All right. If you look at it, a lot of studies says that it was in 2000, early 2000, when the study was conducted, it was found to be around 12 seconds. 12 seconds is what a person can focus on. Now it has come down to 8.25 seconds. So that is where individuals' attention span are in today's context. And so, yes, that's quite shocking. And a lot of research has been done, and it is quite available online. You can always refer to that. Just 8.25 seconds, which is very alarming. And with that, sort of attention span, how can we ensure that the learners are retaining what they are learning? That is the biggest challenge. Plus, each and every day there is a disruptive technological breakthroughs happening. When I say disruptive, uh, means that whatever we are practicing today just become obsolete tomorrow. So that's the kind of challenge that we are faced with. Here, as an L&D professional, we sit through and then think, what should I do? Should I go for e-learning? Should I do classroom training, or should I do a mix of classroom training and virtual training? How do I make a choice? That is the biggest confusion that most of the learning teams are facing with. What is the right optimal learning solution? That is the biggest challenge that everyone is faced with. So in this next half an hour, we will be spending some time to explore and see what would suit our company's requirements, and it might throw some insight, probably with a lot of other people jumping in and adding their perspectives and values would enrich the understanding of our growth learning. So, shall we move forward? Yeah, okay, great. So, what are the different strategies that you follow in your organization? When I say instructional strategies, it could be like something lectures, something like video learning. What is your thoughts? What are the various things that you practice in your organization? Okay, classroom online. So two types: PPT based, experiential learning, online digital training, video webinar. Okay, learning objects, role play. Great. Yeah, right. So online, digital, webinar, and classroom. So basically, if you look at it, it can be split into two types. In both the ends of the spectrum are in-class training and virtual training. But yes, there are different strategies within this two spectrums that you can play with. And one is the lecture videos. Next, we have differentiated learning, kinesthetic learning, expeditionary learning, inquiry-based learning, and simulation. These are just the standards which have been practiced across various companies that I have put in here. And there are several other strategies as well, but this is what most companies do adapt and practice. So it is best to learn what other companies are practicing for our consumption. We will dwell into each of these strategies in detail in coming slides. But before that, I have a question for you guys. Are classroom trainings still relevant? What do you think? Okay. Yes, anytime. Okay. Highest attention span is in classroom environment. Somebody says, same with us. Okay. Okay, so principally everybody agrees that we need this classroom training and it can never be kicked off from our learning experience. So that way I am happy. But however, whenever I go for any sort of consultation, I find that the L&D heads say sometimes mention that we are moving into e-learning. We are trying to get away from classroom training, and just that do you think that strategy is right, like completely skipping off classroom training for e-learning? What do you think? Should we? Okay. No. Okay, LC says yes. Okay. Okay. All right. Yes, I understand that classroom training comes with a set of cons, but however, learning per se is concerned, the retention and the value that it can produce is completely uncomparable when it comes to any other format. So classroom training definitely adds a lot of value addition, and for all the organization that is moving into e-learning, it's good that you can move into and embrace the new technology and appreciate. But at the same time, it is important not to skip classroom training, because that is where the real learning effectiveness can be measured, and it's far more impactful. You can see through your audience and their reactions, and it gives you much more than just the assessment scores. So to measure impact and to ensure that learning is happening, we need to have classroom training, if not completely, but it should be a part of your learning mix. Okay, so there is a question here. Have you applied the insight that 8.25 seconds is the attention span now into this webinar? Sorry to ask this, but I'm curious to know how you apply this insight. So if you look at it, it is just an average uh, attention span. Not necessarily it is the same for everyone. Plus, also we are trying to have some sort of discussion here. It is not that if it is going to be a pure lecture, then it is going to be different. We are having some sort of interactions. I am asking you some questions, you are answering it. So this is how the engagement is built. So it is to enhance your attention span. The questions are asked to enhance your attention span. So It is not that after 8.25 seconds you just switch off and then you come back later. It is just that, an accumulative average of people who there is the average score, not everybody's attention span that we are talking about. Right? Shall we move forward? Okay, great. So some of the learning trends that is going on is bite-sized learning and micro-learning, which are interchangeably used. We will be dwelling into that shortly. And game-based learning, personalized learning, mobile learning, flipped learning, then move. Then there are, of course, a lot of technological support in terms of augmented reality and virtual reality coming in and helping our L&D teams. So this is something that we will be discussing today in detail. So now it's time to understand what are the different tools and techniques that we apply in instruction design. Um, so first thing is that video learning. Although this is old strategy which has been in practice for more than 2 decades, 3 decades, I would say. Um, Still, the kind of rise it is seeing, it's phenomenal. Most of the people are preferring to go by video learning because it is more engaging. It has its own set of benefits, which we'll be seeing now. One, it so this is the in-trend learning strategy. None of the training programs these days carry on without video learning. You invariably engage your audience with some of the other videos, which have which are proven to have high level of engagement. It is also easy to engage their interest, and it is very easy. Plus, it is accessible across anywhere, not just in a classroom setup. You can access it on the move. So that is one of the biggest advantage of video learning. It is informative as well as demonstrating. So this is one strategy that most of the companies, almost whoever does training, invariably incorporates this video learning purely for its uh, entertainment purpose with high level of engagement. So the next is a differentiated learning. So what is differentiated learning? Any thoughts? Of course, uh, MI says that YouTube has been the pioneer for this trend as it provides any place, anytime learning. Of course, that is how the video learning has become repopularized. The biggest credit goes to YouTube because people started accessing it so often that it has seen a rebirth, I would say. So, not sure about differentiated learning. Comparison based. Okay, so differentiated instruction is that it recognizes each of the individual is unique and they come from different background, different capabilities, and they have different interest level, and so each of these factor has to be considered, and we cannot have same level of assessment for all people. We cannot have same level of instructions for everyone. So understanding our learners needs, requirements, and their learning styles, you customize the instruction for each learner. It is time consuming, but it is highly effective because you give a lot of attention to each learner and you ensure that they are in the right path, and the learning outcomes are met from different perspectives. The person may be good by just doing something about a particular subject and learn it. Somebody might be just good by picking up by hearing it through the auditory. Some people are auditory learners, they just listen to the lecture and then take their learning. Some people are extremely good by observing. So there are different types of people and different intelligence that they come up with. So understanding that it has to be done. One principal thing that is so unique about this differentiated instruction is um, for you to construct an instruction around each of these learners, you should have done a pre-assessment, and there should be a consistent ongoing assessment as well. Yes, like I said just now, each of the individual has to be assessed. There has to be a pre-assessment as well as there is the corrective ongoing assessment as well to tailor and customize for the needs of each learner. Does that answer, Hemant? I'm not saying that you cannot use a combination. I'm just saying that each each one will have a different approach. The facilitator will take the responsibility of constructing the instructions for each of the audience depending upon their knowledge, interest, and skills. So it is not that the same it is not that if I am a visual learner, then I will not be exposed to any other formats. It's just that going to be having a variety of strategies blended together in order to ensure that the learner is learning. Right? So does that answer? All right. So let's move forward. Right, just a moment. So this is tailored to meet individual students' needs, and then it is planned and executed by the teacher or the facilitator in our case. Um, the next is kinesthetic learning. What is kinesthetic learning? So you learn by, yeah, doing. You learn by doing. So there is a lot of practice and lot of hands-on experience. You are given the task to do, and you observe, and you make your own learning. So kinesthetic learning is something that we also put a lot in practice, and these days we come up with something called experiential learning, uh, the where this is widely practiced. So it's hands-on practice. It is based on the idea of multiple intelligence by Howard Gardner. He said that intelligence is not just one thing; it is a collection of various things. A person may have different intelligence level in different streams. Like when it comes to music, he will have a different intelligence level. When it comes to linguistic skills, he might have different levels of expertise. And if it is about ability to perform a task, he might have a different level of intelligence. So the intelligence is not purely a static component; it is a dynamic component with a lot of other things to be considered. Not just it is not a linear one. Each one, according to him, there are about 9 types of intelligence. Recently added one existential component as a skill, your ability to interpret the existential aspects of life as one of the skills. So which is quite interesting, and it was added in 2009. Prior to that, there were only eight skills. Now we have 9 skills. It is relatively cheaper and easy to adopt, and it is mostly learner-centric uh, style. So this is still in practice. Um, then there is an inquiry-based learning where the facilitator will introduce a question for discussion, and based on that question, that will be the driving point, and from there on, it is going to be an observation where the learners have to inquire, ask questions, participate actively, and make sure that uh, that the discussion rolls on, and each learner is going to learn through that discussion. It is purely based on the inquiry, right? So here as a facilitator, you will be just playing the supportive role. You encourage the participants to ask more questions, and then the learners are in control of what they want to learn, and they can question anything around their world, and they can assimilate what they want to learn. So here the learner plays a very active role in what they should learn, right? Okay, so there is a question. This we do for shop floor employees in terms of quiz, especially for safety. You mean inquiry based, Santosh? Okay, okay, that's great. Thanks for giving that insight. It is very important. Yes, most of the time, since I also come from manufacturing background, safety trainings are one of the most boring sessions sometimes. Just because it is a lot of compliance are there, and then theoretically you will have to learn a lot of things and very complex at times and boring also. But you engage them some sort of Q and A's, and then putting in some sort of quiz, and then engaging them in some discussion. It's one of the best ways to get more out of it. So can you give more examples for inquiry based learning? So traditionally, this is what we have been practicing, this inquiry based learning. If you look at our ancient system, Gurukulam, it's it's purely based on inquiry based. The guru is to provide as many, is just a platform where the student will come up with their own questions. They inquire and learn, right? So that is one example that I can come up with. And a lot of practices are there. Instead of getting into a monotonous lecture, you just present a neutral point and then ask, do you agree or you don't agree? And then yes, no, then they get into a debate and each one shares their perspective. That is again an inquiry based learning that you facilitate. So there are multiple ways that you can adopt inquiry based learning into your instruction strategies. I hope that answers. All right. Thank you. So let's move forward. So what is this expeditionary learning? This is something very interesting. Any guess of what it could be? Okay, quest, not sure. All right. Expeditionary learning, it's more of a project-based learning where the students are given a task of identifying uh, a problem that is more related with their communities and the society in which they live. And they get into the communities, they go into the society like a field visit and see the people, ask, interact with them, engage in a lot of conversations, identify what the problem is, and then finding solution through which they learn. So this is more like getting into the field and going to into the community to learn, and quite highly effective, extremely creative way of engaging people. Swachh Bharat, somebody has mentioned Swachh Bharat. Uh, I would say yes. That is a way gets linked to it. But then, do you get back once you engage in Swachh Bharat? Do you get back and then assimilate your learning? Yes. Then, if that is the case, then Swachh Bharat can be called as an expeditionary learning. So in expeditionary learning, you go into the community, you get back to the classroom, and then have a discussion of what you learned. So that assimilation has to happen. If that assimilation is not happening, then expeditionary learning will not be effective, right? All right. So, so before we proceed to the next topic, any questions? All right. Great. So the next part is we how this technology-based learning can help organizations. What are the different advantages that an organization can reap by using the technology-based learning? So first concept is this MOOC. Um, MOOC is one of the recent, not recent, I would say it is like 2011 onwards, MOOC became so popular. MOOC is massive online open course. Um, it's an online platform, and I am sure a lot of L&D professionals here would have at some point in time have taken a course from any of these sites like Coursera, EDX, Udacity, and Udemy. So there are many other service providers as well. But MOOC is a very important breakthrough when it comes to learning and development uh, as a domain. So initially it was introduced as CMOOC. CMOOC means connectivism MOOC. So when we say connectivism MOOC, there are a lot of sessions. There is a course. A lot of people sign up for the course, and there is a facilitator. He teaches online, and the the learning happens. Not it doesn't stop just there. What happens? Exactly happening over there is a community formed for all the people who have enrolled for this course, and they have a platform in which they interact and share their learning. So a lot of active engagement and discussion keeps happening in that forum, through which the overall learning is enhanced of all the members who are part of that community. So that way, it was a breakthrough, and it was introduced as CMOOC, and later another version of MOOC came into picture that is called XMOOC, um, we where instead of letting the learning to be ad hoc and then accidental, it also should ensure that specific learning takes place mandatorily across all the learners. So they started recording all the sessions, and then it will be a pre-recorded sessions which will be in place, and there will be a Q&A sessions, quiz, and assessments will be there. Apart from that, there will be a live interaction session by the subject matter expert. So he comes and then he helps learners to clarify their doubts. He just strengthens the concepts and give their understanding. So that is something XMOX does, where still the subject matter expert, like in traditional format, comes into the picture and ensures that everything is in place and ensures all are on the same level of understanding. So that is XMOOC. The biggest advantage of MOOC concept is it is open for all. It's not restricted for any particular age, group, or race, or nationality. Anyone can sign up anywhere. And it is high quality SMEs coming in and then offering, because it is a competitive world. So the best of SMEs comes to deliver the sessions. And time wise, it offers the best of flexibility. It is self-paced. You learn at your own pace, but at the same time, you have a community, you have a subject matter expert to come and support you. That way, MOOC is gaining more popular. It's increasingly popular every year. One of the things is that MOOC is still not recognized for college credits and degrees. So that is the slight disadvantage of MOOC. But learning per se is concerned, it is one of the best ways for learning. You have so much of information abundant and organized for just at a throwaway money. So best way that you can acquire and equip yourself with a lot of knowledge upgrades. So any questions on MOOC? All right. Next is a game-based learning. Uh, this is more like experiential learning, but here each student has to undergo and play. It is more like a game is formed in order to test the learners where they stand. By playing that game, it is not only enriching the technical things that a student would like to learn, but also it helps to build two specific characteristics. One is that it shapes them as a problem solver. This strategy is to engage them, throw them with some sort of challenges, ask them to find solutions, and then each participant has to think through and come up with some creative ideas and ensure that uh, they find the right solution. So they evolve as problem solvers, It also helps them to build their soft skills. So apart from regular experiential learning and other concepts, game-based learning proves to be far more effective, but it is sometimes costly and time-consuming as well. So that is the drawbacks of game-based learning, but otherwise it is quite effective when it comes to engaging and imparting the skills that are necessary for each learner. So I have some comments here. Very limited usage due to complexity and yeah, I do agree. You need bandwidth. You need to be. This is not something commonly practiced in India. This is, but this is quite well effectively employed in Western countries, but not at a large scale. I do agree that it requires a lot of technical, lot of support in terms of bandwidth, internet connectivity, and it's really expensive. So somebody said that Hot Potatoes is one software for making game-based learning. Thanks, and I am not aware of it. Somebody has asked the link for Hot Potatoes, so Lakshman will be the right person to share that source. So we can check that later. And I would also be interested in looking at it after the session. Uh, So here comes the most interesting part. This is becoming extremely popular. Bite-sized learning. Sometimes it is also called micro-learning, but there is a slight difference between bite-sized learning and micro-learning. Bite-sized learning is that you come up with a small theme where you don't want to engage the audience for an 8-hour long training program. Rather, you want your learners to learn quickly in just say about 5 minutes to 7 minutes of time that they have during a lunch break or during a tea break that they wanted to go through something and then learn. You can always introduce uh, a micro learning, which requires hardly 5 to 10 minutes of time. The bite-sized learning is something that focuses on only one objective at a time. If it is about, say, what is proper handshake, just what is proper handshake, that is the only theme that will be discussed, not anything else, just limited to that particular topic alone. And it is easily consumed because you are just learning one concept. Your ability to retain it's significantly higher than you sitting through a session of a day long and then retain the same information. So bite-sized learning that way it's far more effective. So it is known for its better retention. Also covers what is essential for the learners, and it focuses on the desired outcome directly. Whereas micro learning is almost same in terms of timeline and all these things, but what one change here is the learning will be in small, very specific burst. Like it could happen on a periodic timeline regularly, like before you sign in. The moment you go to the office, 9 to 9:10, it's micro learning, just a small bit of information that you will have to run through before you start the day. I'm just giving you an example. So, but learners are in control of what they want to learn, how much they want to learn. They can choose what they want, and this is conducted mostly in digital form. So, bite-sized learning need not be necessarily an online platform, whereas micro-learning is mostly a digital online platform. Let me give you an example for bite-sized. You may have a caselet, a small caselet, which you can hand it over to your participants and ask them, what do you think? So just 5 minutes they go through and then they say that this is what has happened right, this is what is wrong. So so that much is bite-sized learning. Whereas micro learning could be a little bit more, technology based. It could be like you're showing them a 3 minutes clip and then asking them to answer a few questions. So that could be a micro learning. So, any questions on this part? All right, great. So next is the personalized learning. Personalized learning, it's more about you creating an individual plan. So how is this different? I'll tell you. Personalized learning is an attempt. It's still in the evolutionary phase. It is not into its it is not a fully bloomed. It's still under development. But what it aims at is it wants to create an individual learning plan depending upon the strength, needs, skills, and interest. It wants to create a plan, and learners will have the freedom to choose what they wanted to learn and how they wanted to learn and where they can learn. Um, Sometimes I am available only between night, say 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and I want to learn at that time. It Yes, personalized learning can help your learners to choose their time of availability and learn. So that is this is purely technological driven, which would take a lot of time in Indian context to get into the market. But yes, although we are a late adapters, but we can expect this in some point in time. And I think there are already some companies which are getting into this space, providing a tablet for this learning purpose, which will be given to them once for a specific period of time, and then it will be collected back once the course gets over. So such interventions are going on. It is often supported by the technology. The learning pace is adjusted. Each one chooses at what pace that they wanted to learn, and the biggest advantage is here the assessments are also customized for each and every individual. So it is based on competency based progression. Before I get into this program, where did I stand and what are my strengths? The pre assessment is done, and ongoing assessment will also be done. And after the training, where do you stand? So it is a complete competency assessment will be done from right from the start till the end. So personalized learning is something uh, which is more customized for individuals with a blend of all the technological avenues that we have, and trying to create a learning experience that is totally specific for that individual. There is a company who is using this for onboarding personalized learning plan on day one. That's awesome to know. If the name can be shared, you can very well share it here. It's good to know. Anyway, we are talking positives about uh, the to the technology. So if you know the name, you can just share it. Otherwise, fine. You can move on. Uh, So the next is the mobile learning. Mobile learning is also evolving, but it is not well received for one simple reason. People started to think that it is in learning, in time learning experience. So meaning that I have my manager assigned me this task and I have to complete it. And anyway, I have taken this test and it's done. So it is more, people started to view this as more of a task completion rather than building them for the future. So the feeling that, they are not engaging me or building my competence, rather they just wanted to do this as a check mark exercise, is the feeling that people get through this mobile learning. So that is why it is not very well received, although a lot of companies are still practicing. But if you look at the numbers, it's even at top level, top 500 MNCs, it is only 8% of the companies use mobile learning. So it has to go a long way before it is accepted widely. So the next part is the flipped classroom. The flipped classroom is a very interesting part. Uh, in a traditional classroom setup, what we do is the lecturer comes in and then he gives his lecture and shows what um, uh, he explains the subject and engages the student in Q&A and discussions, and then gives a lot of tasks and assignments and homework, a lot of activities that can be done back at home. But flipped classroom is a very interesting concept where uh, it is just the reverse of it. All the sessions are recorded and then given as a pre-recorded video. As a learner, you have to watch all those videos and then get into the classroom setting only to engage in activities and demonstrations. There are no lectures inside the class. It's more about sharing. The learning is owned by the learner, whereas the discussion is facilitated by the facilitator. So that's how it is. Okay, is it the same as smoke or part of it as smoke? Um, so in MOOC, you may not even have an engagement in a classroom setup. The subject matter expert or the facilitator may not even meet the audience group. Whereas in flipped classroom, there is a face-to-face interaction. That way, it is different. All right. Okay. Great. So we have seen different types of learning trends that are in place. So how do we get all these things into a perspective and ensure what would be the right strategy for my organization is one of the questions. Yes, we all know sitting through this discussion and then looking at different avenues available, it all looks feasible. But when it comes to applying these things in the organizational context, that's where the real problem begins. How do we know what would suit my organization? That's the biggest question that we all have. And if you look at the facts, only 41% of the top 500 companies use some form of technology to train their employees. Um, it could be video training, it could be MOOC, it could be any of the things that we just discussed. But this is the case in top 500 companies that we are talking about, Fortune 500 companies. And also, there is an increasing trend of abandoning traditional training for technology-based training. That is also quite in the uptrend, but which is something uh, something we all have to be worried about because these top 500 companies, which has completely abandoned traditional training, are now looking back at the traditional training once again. They are returning back to traditional training. They implemented and eliminated all the traditional training, went with technology. Now they are returning back. So that is the kind of change that is happening. So we have to be very careful while implementing. And this is the part that we'll be discussing in the next slide. Optimal learning management solution that we'll be looking at. And how do we ensure that it is not only just the learning, but also people are being productive, they are emotionally invested, they participate actively and stay with the company and be productive. So this is something the organizations are looking at. And one thing that we blended learning can do is uh, since we know what are the tools available, depending upon our company's strength, we can look into various combination of techniques. Like just if I go back and show you, these are some of the things that you can practice or encourage. MOOC, game-based learning, bite-sized or micro-learning, personalized learning, mobile learning. So flipped classroom, it's another interesting thing. So these are different avenues that are available, but each one comes with its own set of pros and cons. And most importantly, cost is very high. One of the reasons people are hesitant to move forward is any training intervention involves huge cost. And to say that you are getting into mobile learning, it comes with its own set of cost. And people are afraid to implement it because uh, the moment they implement, there comes into the market something far more disruptive that whatever you are implemented becomes obsolete. So that is biggest challenge that organizations face. So it is a wise decision to go with a mix of things, and there are no hard and fast rule of what is right and what is wrong. Depending upon your organization's capabilities and risk taking ability, and the preferences for uh, I mean, the weightage that is given for learning and development will play a very important role. So, someone is asking, can you explain the second point again? This one, improve employee engagement, the earlier slide. Okay, abandoning traditional training for technology-based learning. So I was saying that there are companies which have gone into technology-based training, like say that we are going to implement e-learning solution and we are going to scrap off traditional training. And people later came back and said that it is not fully effective. although this is good, we still need this classroom training. This should not be eliminated. This is what the lessons uh, that has been learned by top 500 Fortune 500 companies, and they are getting back to traditional training now. They are not scrapping off. So, all right, all right. We just have one slide to go here, just this one. Um, so the next part is that earlier it was thought that we should engage our learners. It is not as just sufficient to engage your learners. By engaging them, they should also be productive. So that is the biggest concern. What is the ROI? Okay, I'm doing all this training, but what is the ROI? It's a very big question that management wants to know from L&D teams. So yeah, how we do this is, since the programs are customized for each and every individual, the learning it matches their learning styles. In a particular group, there could be varied learners of different styles, and you customizing and then accommodating as many you know learning interventions as possible. You have the right mix of techniques and strategies. It will ensure that the participants are emotionally invested. They feel that their time has been honored. They feel more motivated, and it feels very specific and direct for them to consume. So that way, they are emotionally invested. And another thing is that it is found that 94% of the people are willing to stay back if the company is willing to invest in their learning. So when you come up with a blended learning, it ensures that the programs are targeted for each learners, and then they feel that they are their development is being taken care of. That emotional connect has to come. It is not enough to pass on the knowledge or the technical skills through a training program. There should also be an emotional connect which has to come from uh, the learners towards the company, and that is possible when you engage in such sort of blended approach techniques. So with that, I we have come to the end of this program or the session. Just I can see a lot of questions on the sides, which I will be taking it through. Um, Organizations wants ROI from training and learning programs. The form of, so, so the question here is ROI from training and development forms of impact or revenue. So one thing that you can do is before before you begin any sort of training interventions with respect to ID before applying this. One thing is you will have to assess where does your organization stand at this point in time. What is your attrition rate? What is their engagement level? Do you have any one? You should. There is a lot of work that gets into. Uh, of course, getting into the ROI part is not that easy. It's very complex and very not so easy to answer it in this forum. It changes from one company to another company. And how much are you willing to go forward in order to ensure your measure? Because measuring ROI is also very costly. Yeah, pre and post session is one way, but then before even you bring in any sort of engagement, learning engagement, you should also measure the organizational metrics. Are there any change in organizational metrics before the engagement and after the engagement? That is something. So here, what we are talking about is just the training, assessment. Before you attended the training, what is your understanding, and after the training, what is your understanding? That is another level, right? All right. I see. So could you share some examples of customization? Here, one customization that you can always give is you have a classroom So normally, what happens is people just organize a training intervention and then they just launch the training program. And then that once the training is done, you make the assessment and say that he is qualified. But then, what do you do? Do you really get back and see how much of change has happened in next 3 months, in next 6 months? Do you do any sort of follow up? Do you ensure that there is another way to reinforce the learning? Just one day somebody coming into the classroom and then sitting and going back, how do you ensure that the person is reinforced with the concepts on the later dates, so you can release some sort of micro learning opportunities can be created. That is something, if you have an intranet or an employee portal where they can look into their learning assigned learning tools and then just click on some videos that are specifically uh, made available for them, then they can view that. Such sort of customizations can be done. Supposedly I attended a program on communication skills, it should be mapped onto my employee portal, and under the training tab there should be this communication skills mapped on, where I go there and then I can just do a refresher through videos. That is something that you can come up with. I'm just proposing some ideas. So all right, I think we are nearing the end of it. um, but otherwise, um, if you have any other questions, please do ask. Otherwise, the training, we can end the training here. Okay, the training effectiveness assessment after 60 days of the training is one way. Yes, of course, that's a fantastic way to measure, because whenever you are engaging someone into a behavioral competency, it's not a technical program that you are signed up for. Sometimes our participants are from behavioral, undergoing a behavioral training. For them to show what they have learned, and it is a behavioral change which will not be, instantaneous. It is built over time. So for you to measure them, you cannot do it on the next day or on the same day. You'll have to wait for them to show some change. It would take somewhere between 2 months to 6 months. It's a very ideal time frame to do a post assessment on soft skills, between 2 months to 6 months. All right. Thank you, Hemant. And any other questions, please do ask. And I hope you all enjoyed the session. Looking forward for more sessions later. So
Okay, by that, we come at the end of the webinar for today. Thank you, Satish, for being such a wonderful facilitator. We had a very interactive webinar today. A recording of this webinar will be available on our website page in the next few days. You can see a link to go to this past webinar page on the chats. You may also see a recording of over 30 previously held webinars there. If you feel any of the questions were unanswered, or if you have more questions, please feel free to write to contact@strengthscape.com. You may also contact through the phone number or through our website. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience once again. Have a nice day, all of you.